Hey guys, welcome back to Lunatic Astrology. I'm your astrologer, Lori Lothian, and today we're going to talk about Neptune turning direct on November the 28th and some of the incredible power that this turnaround has as it squares the nodal axis. So let's talk a little bit about Neptune. We're going to do all signs as well to see how it might impact you in your life as it turns direct. So stay tuned for that as well. Now, let's also just be clear. Neptune is big, slow, transpersonal planet. It takes like 167 years to travel around the zodiac. And so anything that it does, think about like a Titanic, a ship moving on the ocean. It's not like happening like that, right? It's happening in big like swaths of time, approximately 14 years on average for Neptune to travel through, for instance, a sign of the zodiac. So when we talk about Neptune turning retrograde or direct, we're always having to contextualize Neptune in the larger story. So first of all, Neptune is the god of illusion and deception and the creator of the Maya, or the apparent reality. And that's what he's really good at. And he's in Pisces right now, which makes him really good at it. And in fact, right now, this is replicating a time in history where Neptune was in Pisces from roughly 1848 to 1860 in the United States, and gave rise to what's called a spiritualism movement, which is people rapping on tables and, talking to the dead. And I think there's nothing wrong with talking to the dead myself, but I'm saying that's when that arose almost like a religion, and it swept across the United States. And even Lincoln in the White House had the Red Room where he and his wife would talk to the dead. Part of it was fueled, I think, because there had been a pandemic. Yes, 3 waves of a cholera pandemic in the United States preceding the 1860 Civil War, and during the time that Neptune was transiting Pisces. And because a lot of people were sick and dying, and there was a lot of uncertainty, and also because people were looking for a direct spiritual connection to something greater, like what if life after death exists? And Neptune took hold in Pisces and gave people that hope. I would say that the spiritualism movement is relatively benign as a Neptunian movement goes. But however, where things aren't as benign is in today's world, where we're having things like QAnon conspiracy theory taking hold in the collective, and a lot of paranoia that goes with that. And there's many other conspiracy theories that have been dovetailed into QAnon as kind of like the grand maestro and master of conspiracy theory. Why am I bringing conspiracy theory up? Well, because it is a Neptunian thing, right? Delusions, illusions, fear, paranoia. Neptune in its darkest shadow can be where we have mental illness. And I actually look at that as the shamanic world thinks of mental illness as like, as a spiritual emergency, possibly, that, there's been a fracture from reality because the person has opened those Aldous Huxley doors of perception and maybe seeing the world as it truly is and then can't cope. Possibly, right? And so we can look at Neptune bringing mental illness, but in the context of what is the perceptual apparatus experiencing, our eyes, our ears, our mind. Because honestly, we have to, there's something called error correcting code that is a theory of how we perceive reality. And we have to always correct for survival. And so we filter out things we don't need. If you were to take in every single little bit of data that's streaming around you constantly, like as I'm doing this recording, if I was paying attention to the kitchen and thinking of, and other sounds coming through my back window, I couldn't cope. I couldn't filter that data. So we filter data. We have peripheral vision, in a sense, or tunnel vision about what we're able to receive, including information. So right now, Neptune is causing a lot of difficulty. I want to read you a quote from an amazing book, okay? I love this book. This is Neptune by Liz Green. She's an astrologer who is just incredible when it comes to the archetypal nature of the planets. But this is not her quote. This is a quote from an author named Arthur Machen, who wrote the book, The Great God Pan. And I think this quote really sums up Neptune, really, because we're going to talk about this 28th turnaround on, coming up. We're going to talk about how it's squaring the nodal axis and what it might mean for you personally, but also for all of us collectively as it redirects its energy in Pisces. So Neptune, this is what this author says, right? And this is not about Neptune. It's what the author Liz Green thought was a Neptunian quote. So you see me standing here beside you and hear my voice, but I tell you that all these things, yes, from that star that has just shone out in the sky, to the solid ground beneath our feet, I say that all these are but dreams and shadows. The shadows that hide the real world from our eyes. There is a real world, but it is beyond this glamour and this vision. So I really will tell you that Neptune does open the doors to what's real. It's also a planet that I've tracked in the charts of saints and sages and people I have birth data for who've had spiritual awakenings, including my own. And you'll find that Neptune tracks with awakening to what's true beyond the veil. Often in a client's chart, any strong Neptune moon contact, they're very intuitive. They channel angels, archangels, they talk to the dead. But, it can also cause delusion and illusion, paranoia, and even religious fanaticism if paired up in somebody's chart just the right way. It's also a planet that can incite a person to be a liar, a confabulator, a maker-upper of things. That's why it rules the film industry, right? That's why it rules like Hollywood and the make-believe world of film. Donald Trump has a Neptune Mercury contact. Trine or square, I can't remember, but the point is he's known for being the guy who doesn't tell the truth. If you listen to the mainstream media, and when you get to the word fake news, that's so Neptunian, right? That's actually literally a Neptune Mercury phrase. Fake news is Mercury and Neptune is fake. And Donald Trump has made fake news the thing, and he's got Neptune Mercury in his chart talking to each other. So this kind of story gets really interesting when you really start to track it. So one of the things I would say about Neptune, hang on a sec. Go ahead, Jeff. One of the things I want to say about Neptune is that in your own chart, it's going to act in a healthy or unhealthy way, depending on where it's positioned. So just come to me for a reading and we'll check out where that is. And if you're into enlightenment, I can tell you in 2018, Neptune entered my 12th house, my solar ruled 12th house, as if I'm an Aries sun and moon. And that coincided with a massive spiritual awakening at the end of 2011, just after it ingressed into my solar 12th house. So there is some weird correspondences there. There are others. So let's talk about what Neptune might be doing for all of us. I want to show you what it looks like in the sky. So we're going to go take a look at that together by looking at the natal chart of the day of the astrology chart of the day of this ingress, or this movement direct, I should say. So there's Neptune at 18 degrees. He goes direct November the 28th, 5:35 p.m. Pacific time. So adjust your time zone accordingly. I have this set for Vancouver, even though I live in Montreal. Don't even ask me why. So basically, what does Neptune talk to when he turns direct? Where are the conversations that Neptune is most engaged in? Well, clearly he's engaged in a square to the north and south node. So that makes a temporary T-square in the sky, should I have drawn a red line here. And that's a tension angle. And this is like a bending of the nodes then. Okay, this is like one of the turning points on the nodal axis. And what this can really incite is a incredibly heightened Neptunian experience for the collective. And particularly with the South Node in Sagittarius saying, let go of your beliefs, let go of your faith, let go of your assumptions about reality, let go of your dogma. We're trying collectively with the South Node going through Sagittarius until the end of 21 to start to let go. But the South Node can also cause confusion and fog in the zone that it's traveling through. And we've got the North Node saying, move to the sharper mind, the mercurial intellect, the energy of Gemini, the thinker. In a lot of ways, this Neptune is now going, as it pivots or turns around to go direct at 18 degrees, it could be a relief maybe from some of the crazy paranoid and fake news and all the weird stories that have been going on in the United States or around the world about the nature of the virus, about whether this is a pandemic or a plandemic, about whether or not there is, a hoax, whether or not there is a vaccine, whether the vaccine is safe. And Neptune rules viruses. I mean, it's a part of the viral story, something really hidden and, that causes, you can't really see it, but it's causing a problem. Mars is also about viruses, by the way, but we'll look at the Neptune story now and go, well, yeah, okay, so Neptune could be connected to the pandemic. He's going to go direct, and he's been retrograding for quite a long time. Shoot, I can't remember when he started his retrograde journey. Let me grab my retrograde chart if I have it handy. That would be useful information, guys, doing a video on Neptune retrograde. Okay. So I don't have it, do I? Maybe I do. Maybe I do. Hang in there. Yes, I do. I think I do. You can see that I really don't plan these things because I have no idea where my retrograde chart is. Okay, so let me just pause while I find the retrograde chart. Okay, I don't have it. So he's been in retrograde for a few months, and I will try to locate that information. very shortly before I end this video. But the idea is the direct motion is what's mattering here. And as Neptune turns and pivots direct, squaring the nodal axis, my sense of it is that there's a strong possibility we're going to get out of the fog. I mean, he is moving direct. He's trying to do his best to like clear the way for something clear, a clear sight, a clear seeing of what's real. And so we'll begin to get out of the fog of confusion, illusion, and delusion in the collective around the pandemic, maybe around the US election as well. At the same time, he's turning direct. He's also making a relational sextile to the moon. The moon happens at the time of the turning of direct motion to be at 22 degrees of Taurus. And so, you know, there's a sense that that sextile to the moon in Taurus, the sign of the earth, the sign where Venus is sitting in Scorpio, which is the place of hidden things, like not the house, but just the sign, that which is hidden. There could be like a revealing and an uncovering of something very practical, Taurian, tangible, strategic, usable information, knowledge, or something like that to do with either the pandemic or the direction of dealing with the pandemic. You know, so I saw a meme go out there recently about the Biden-Harris ticket taking over the White House and how, or the US government, and how it was, the meme was something funny like, okay, now we have some decent managers of the war machine, because this was obviously, you know, one of those people who believes the United States is basically a big military industrial nightmare of some sort. But I just thought about that. You know, it is at the very least, whatever your politics are, that Biden-Harris team would likely get their hands on this pandemic and come up with a plan, you know, like a national plan. And that's what's been missing. And so I think that the direct motion of Neptune, sextiling the moon in practical Taurus, could reveal a plan in the weeks that follow, if not the days that follow, November the 28th. And even though there hasn't necessarily been that transition of power, and even though there is a massive eclipse coming on December the 14th and a lunar eclipse on the 30th, Neptune is a big, slow moving heavyweight, and his turning around will influence things for sure when it comes to the situation in the United States. And the other thing I'd say about that is, guys, I mean, right now the South Node is transiting right through Sagittarius, where the ascendant of the United States in the Sibley chart sits. The United States is having a crisis of identity. The South Node is going through the identity of a nation. And when Neptune is squaring that South Node and squaring the North Node, which would be in the seventh house of the US chart, there is a strong sense of a pivot around the direction that the identity crisis the United States has been having will go, some kind of changing of the crazy chaos of the last 4 or 5 months. So we can just assume that things can get better, I think, when Neptune goes direct. So I'm going to talk about all signs, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because, you know, Neptune has been in that part of your chart where he's journeying right now for forever. Let's grab my little list of Neptune. Neptune entered into this part of the chart when did Neptune enter into Aries? I mean, into Pisces. It's so funny, guys, when you're in astrology, you have all these notes everywhere. 2011 April, okay? So 2011 April, Neptune entered into the sign of Aries, where he has been dealing with illusion, delusion, visionary power, spiritual attainment, enlightenment, doors of perception, creativity, high art, all his themes. All right, so let's go to all signs and talk about what that has meant for you so far. You know, what's been going on there. And I am going to go look now at, I'm going to take this off. I'm going to go figure out when he actually ended up going, started to go retrograde this year. So give me a sec while I pull up I do have the information on one of my thousands of pieces of paper. Hang on. So now let's find the one for this year. Here we are. Hello. 2020. All right, Neptune began retrograding on June the 23rd. Okay, well, think about that. We only go back to the pandemic, right? June the 23rd. Things are starting to heat up just after June 30th when Jupiter Pluto hit and the second wave began, second wave of the pandemic. But also Jupiter Pluto came together on June the 3rd. On the 23rd, Neptune was stationing retrograde. And I'd say from about June 23rd, things have escalated in the United States and around the world regarding confusion around the pandemic, and in the United States, particularly political chaos and confusion, and the intense rise of conspiracy theories. Since June 23rd is when Facebook began to excise all QAnon stuff off of its platform like crazy, right? So that's an example of what that retrograde Neptune did. It got so heated and so escalated with bizarre theories that, social media began to correct and remove and stuff a lot of the content. So let's go ahead. Let's talk about all signs very gently, very quickly. Aries, for you guys, this is going to happen. Well, has been happening for a heck of a long time. Sorry, I have all my cheat sheet here in your 12th house. My left brain goes off when I do these videos. So your 12th house is your house of dreams. It's Pellegrino. Dreams at night, reverie, meditation, past lives. This is a place of enlightenment, liberation from the dream, the moksha thing, getting out of the dream. If you are enlightenmenty and you're thinking about God and spiritual truth and wisdom, then this has been a transit that has escalated that for you, as it has for me as an Aries sun moon. And you've been preoccupied a bit since April of 2011 with these themes of enlightenment. And it's true, I have been. And in 2025, Neptune will leave this part of your chart. But as he turns direct, if you've been stuck with any plans, creative projects, dreams and visions, any ideas that are highly imaginative and creative that you've been percolating during his retrograde since June 23rd, you can start to make them real and bring them to life. I'll give you an example. I have a book that I wrote, and I've been editing it during that time, The Coming Age of Miracles, with the help of a friend. And I will launch it when Neptune goes direct, because it was a channel book, and that's Neptune's gig. So it fits for me that by November 28th, that's my idea. I'm going to send it out as a Thanksgiving special giveaway, or maybe I'll charge like $3 for it. Alrighty. Let's keep going forward then to the Taurians of the world. This is Neptune turning direct in your natal 11th house. And don't forget that it's at 18 degrees. If anybody has any planets near 18 degrees, pay attention, especially 18 degrees of Pisces. All right, specifically, I should have said that in the beginning. But anyway, so Taurus, this is going to be about your friends. This is going to be about your social networks, allies, your dreams, hopes, and wishes. I would suggest for you Taurians, you've been pretty confused since 2011 necessarily about what it is you want to be when you grow up. Neptune is going through that 11th house and it's changing your views of that. You may have also experienced changes and disappointments and disillusionments in friendships since then, and certain groups of belonging that didn't fit. Like my daughter's a Taurus sun, and she joined a sorority during Neptune in her 11th. Good luck with that. She was very disillusioned with that in her first year of university. So consider that you Taurians will find you're having to look more clearly, more precisely at what it is you're dreaming for and hoping for in your life. And now that Neptune has turned direct, and who you want to be with, what groups you want to be with. And now that Neptune has turned direct, you're likely to experience this as a kind of breath of fresh air. More clarity about what you really want, what your true hopes and dreams are, and any confusion around that might lift up a bit. If you've been waiting to meet some new friends or wanting to connect with new social circles, especially ones that have Neptunian ideals, they're more spiritual, there's an opening for that for you, Taurus, sun, moon, and ascendants as well. All right. Gemini, this Neptune turning direct at 18 degrees is going to begin to lift up some of the fog and confusion for you guys in your career zone. Neptune's been going through your career house now since Lord Almighty, like so many years, 2011. It's been hard for the Geminis to actually figure out what it is they want to do for their career. Or you're trying to align career with spiritual enlightenment or higher vision or deeper mystical parts of you. Ultimately, Neptune is the we are one vibe, but also you'll see Neptune, like, the people who do things like the Harry Potter woman has Neptune, J.K. Rowling in her 10th house, where Neptune's traveling for you Geminis. So it can incite you to want to be more magical and to think about things in a more magical way, and, or produce career outcomes that have a lot of non-ordinary stuff to them. Little bit of woo, W-O-O. And even if you're a down-to-earth and practical Gemini, you're still got Neptune in the 10th house. So moving away from just confusion about what you want to do with your career, you can, especially now that's past the 15-degree mark, you can begin to be inspired, have great imagination and visions about your career path. And it clears up, on the direct November 28th, and you can finish the year strong in your career. And if you're at all in the spiritual life, like you're a minister, a pastor, a preacher, or inspirational speaker, this is going to be a good next few months as the turnaround of Neptune happens, or even a writer of sci fantasy or fiction. So moving forward to the Cancers of the world. Cancer, this is happening in your natal ninth house, a house of God, house of religion, house of higher education, house of foreign lands, house of Dharma, your true calling. For Cancer, sun, moon, and ascendants, it's been a bit of a foggy time there. Should I go back to school or not? What do I want to do? Should I educate myself? Is education the path for me? If I'm going to be educated, it better well be Neptunian, like film or filmography or art or high art, And then Neptune in the ninth house, travel to foreign lands, but yes, for mystical reasons, to inspire you, not just for everyday things. Okay. I'm just going to pause this recording. It's my daughter. Okay. So just finishing up, it's about your career being inspiring. It's not your career. It's about your path in the ninth house, a trip, mystical, magical, inspiring trips, And by the way, all you Cancer, sun, moon, and ascendants, this is a really good time to travel to some place where you can get in touch with like spiritual stuff, like ashrams or meditation. And if you know astrocartography, you should definitely take a trip to your Neptune line, to a foreign land, especially once COVID lightens up, because you can have some great insights and downloads already. And since it's the house of God, and this is Neptune in your house of God, it is very spiritual, and you could have spiritual awakenings. Be careful for spiritual teachers. Are likely not to be what they seem with Neptune in the ninth. Wait till Neptune clears out of there in 2026 before you bow before the foot of a guru. All right, moving forward, it is Leo in your eighth house where Neptune is turning around. This is the house of your money that doesn't belong to you, bank loans, spousal money, leverages, inheritances. It's been a bit of a foggy time for the money story for you since 2011. I don't envy you there, and it's ongoing till 2025 April. However, it is a house of occult mysteries and secrets, and a lot of people with Neptune in the eighth house, particularly if it's connected to their moon, are psychics and channelers. So this is opening the gates of perception to the unconscious mind, to the other realms, to the secrets and hidden things like forbidden archaeology or alchemical wisdom, like the Western alchemical tradition, Freemasonry, all that kind of pagan witchery, all that kind of stuff is very eighth house. Also intimacy, sexual intimacy, not just sex. And so with Neptune there, you might like have transcendent sex. There's a guy who wrote a book, David Data. I can't say the name here, but anyway, it's like F me to God or something like that, or how to F yourself to God. I don't remember that. But the idea is like taking, the sexual encounter to it, sex magic, transcendence. And sex magic might be a great word for Neptune in the eighth house transit. Now that Neptune's going direct for you, Leos, some of this stuff becomes more evident. For what I'm talking about, you'll have more motion and momentum in that area of your life, those areas of your life. Again, it's hard to pin down Neptune, whereas Neptune's really about the unreal. And so I'll leave it for you to figure out. Virgo, seventh house. Okay, so tough one for Virgo rising especially, and sun and moon. Neptune in the seventh house means falling for people that you don't see correctly, like falling into relationship with people that you don't perceive correctly. You have rose-colored glasses. You put them on a pedestal. You just don't see who they are. You could also say that deceptive people with illusory personas enter your romantic sphere or your personal one-on-one relationship sphere. So it's not an easy journey. So you have to figure out that now that Neptune's past the 15-degree mark, thank God, you can start to see things a little bit more clearly. And over the next few years until 2025, because the promise of a Neptune transit through the seventh house is the dream relationship, the soulmate, the partner of my soul, the divine complement. Okay. So for you single Aries, Virgo rising, sun, moon, and ascendants, Neptune direct could spin off that event. Look for anything planets in your seventh house close to 18 degrees, within 3 degrees of either side. And that could be a clue that Neptune will spit out some kind of new love story for you. It also means confusion and uncertainty sometimes about business partnerships or clients if you have them, or attracting very Neptunian people into your life. Maybe in the past, maybe since 2011 till about beginning of 2020, a lot of that was the first 15 degrees of the sign of Pisces, which can be the confusion zone. And now things are beginning to become more and more clear. So you learn some lessons about illusion and delusion and misperceiving other, or bringing charlatans and manipulators and liars into your life, as well as addicts, by the way. So anyway, you're clear of that story. Libra, this is happening in your natal 6th house. This is the house of your work. It's where you go to work every day. It's the work routines. It's the things you do. It's also your routines, daily routines for your physical wellness. So Libra, sun, moon, and ascendant, Neptune there, if you are addictive in your tendencies with food or habits, this could have been a journey. I mean, really, that began in 2011 to begin to clear up some of those addictive paths that you've taken, self-undoing, that have gotten in the way of you being successful and happy and healthy and whole. So it doesn't have to be a substance. It could even be binging on Netflix or shopping addictions. Now that this is a direct motion on the 28th, and plus it's past the 15-degree mark in 2020. Neptune is trying to bring some clarity, some vision, some imagination, some hope, some mystical oneness energy to your house of karmic debt, right? Livelihood, the work you do in the world. If you're into photography or film or high art, Neptune rules that. And this could be a really good turnaround November 28th, where your artistry takes on a whole new potency and a whole new clarity and a whole new bigger vision than you've had before. And yeah, that's very possible that you Neptunes could dream and imagine, your imagination, Neptune, the great imaginator, something very powerful, awakened imagination for you in the house of work, right? Reimagine your work, reimagine your work. Maybe it's that simple. Scorpio, this is going to be Neptune heading direct in your natal 5th house, Scorpio, sun, moon, and ascendant. This is romance, just like I said for the Virgos, where Virgos got involved in longer term committed relationships that were delusional or with shisty people. You may have been challenged in the love story department. Romantic love, Scorpio, sun, moon, and ascendant may have been disappointing for you. Okay, since 2011. If you were in an existing relationship during that time, then the sex life may have gotten very bad or foggy or confusing, or the relationship may have been confusing even while you were in it. Things may have started to change in 2011. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising, the turnaround is positive though. If you're in a relationship now, it's going to become more inspired and more dreamy and more imaginative, and you and your partner might have more transcendent, mystical, sexual energy together. This is a house of your creative projects. We birth babies and we birth projects that are like our babies here. So including our own businesses. So the dream business, the dream project, dreaming into a new creative direction in your life. Now, also, if you wanted to have children and you were having trouble conceiving, that should have turned around in 2020 as Neptune got into the post 15-degree mark. All right, moving on. Well, Neptune in the house of your children. Let me just bring that up. If you have children, grown or children, this is Neptune traveling through your children's house since 2011 until April of 25. So your children could be receiving Neptunian light from your chart. So maybe your children have been confused about things. Maybe your children have been inspired by things. Maybe your children have had spiritual energies active in their charts, in their lives as well. Or maybe you found that your children were confusing for you. Oh my God. Next, Sagittarius. Sun, moon, and ascendant. This is a 4th house Neptune transit since 2011 to 2025. Yeah, so you're home, not feeling at home, not knowing where your real home is, being confused about your home, wanting to live by oceans and water bodies, Neptune transiting your 4th house, confusion around your ancestral line, your mom, your dad, relationships with your parents being difficult and confusing. However, Sagittarius, sun, moon, and ascendant, that is turning around. It has been since 2020 as Neptune crossed the 15-degree mark. And now with Neptune turning direct on the 28th of November, less confusion around the home. Now, the 4th house can be your mom. And so if there's something going on with you and your mom, then maybe things clear, the direction becomes clear. Sometimes, Neptune going through someone's parental house can mean problems with your parents' mental condition. Like if your parents are a little bit older, then mental, what do you call it? Like senility or Alzheimer's or mental confusion for one or two of your parents, or mental illness striking one of your parents. Now, Neptune moving direct on November 28th is a new direction, right? Now things are going in a new direction. Now you are going in a new direction regarding home. So Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant, where do you want to live? Are you happy with where you're living? This could really be an inciting energy on the 28th of November and the months that follow, asking you to consider perhaps a relocation. If you don't like your home, can you redecorate it? Can you beautify it? Can you make it inspiring and magical, Neptune? Or do you need to actually relocate? Is that what's on the table for you? Yeah, that's about it. Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Okay, so you guys are looking at third house Neptune since 2011, ending in April of 25. This is a house of siblings, travel and trips, and domestically usually, self-expression, education, lower education, like elementary and high school, and or taking courses and stuff, and selling things online or selling things anywhere really. So if you had problems with a sibling for a long time now, especially since 2011, things could go in a direct motion, like an addicted sibling, a mentally ill sibling, a sibling struggling with something. But since 2020, hope opens up. Neptune goes past the 15-degree mark. And now November 28th onward, you're going to experience some momentum around sibling issues. Now, trips and travel, no one gets to go anywhere in COVID, right? But this is getting in a car, train. This is domestic. If you have a trip that you want to make, November 28th onward, Capricorns, this is good. This is going to open up the doors for a successful going forthness. Neptune in the third house, you probably want to travel to places that have inspiration, mysticism, magic, or water, or all of the above. Like Bali comes to mind, but that's not domestic, so forget it. Lastly, this is the house of oracles and divination, and then, seeing a psychic, seeing a card reader, etc., seeing a channeler. So it's a good time, November 28th, to get good psychic or channeled guidance from somebody, if that's up your alley, your cup of tea. I don't really put astrology as much in the third house, but more in the ninth house. But nonetheless, an astrologer could be of use as well. I've been recording a lot today. I'm getting tired. All right. Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. This is happening in your natal second house of earned income. Alrighty. So yes, I'm an Aquarius rising. Starting in 2011, I began to experience confusion and uncertainty about earnings. In fact, starting about 2009, 10, I started not making money really at all. And then money that I did make didn't have meaning for me. It has to be meaningful. I have to make money that's spiritually true for who I am. And I'm confused, right? So any of you Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Ascendants might have felt some of this fogginess around earnings and possessions and self-possessions and wealth, etc. Now, then Neptune has been going into the 15-degree mark and passing the worst of the confusion in late 19 into 20. And now we're beginning to have clarity, momentum, and directionality around making money and being self-possessed and self-resourced in a way that is also in alignment with our higher spiritual values that Neptune can represent, or making money through things that have to do with magic. What's an example? I launched my 40-day magic challenge course back in 2015, and I taught a series of courses about magic, money magic lab, Neptune magic, second house earnings, right? So you can see that's kind of literal. It's really hard with Neptune in the second house to just like buckle down and like sell used cars, but Neptune can make you really good at being good at creating an image. Or so if you're in the image making world, like, advertising, photography, filmography, and you want to make images and you want to produce persuasive images or messages, that Neptune's been helping you do that by being in your house of income. Anything else about the second house? It's what you say to the world. It's your voice. So what kind of voice do you want to have? I have to have a Neptunian voice now. Like I just channeled a book, Coming Age of Miracles, so Neptunian. I have to eat Neptunianly. Things have to come into my mouth with the Neptune's, blessings. Now, Neptune in the second house can be, you know, like super sensitive to drugs. Like watch out for you Aquarians now, sun, moon, and ascendant. You know, it might say that the dose is okay for the average Joe, but for you, you're going to be very sensitive to all kinds of drugs, just regular prescriptions, and super sensitive to, like, you know, plant spirit medicine stuff like ayahuasca and mushrooms and stuff. So be careful with that. All righty. Because your sensitivity is heightened, but also with Neptune there's a call to go in that direction. So, you know, I have some golden teacher magic mushrooms that I haven't used. So I'm afraid to. I've never done them before, but I'm waiting for Neptune to go direct. And I had a dream that the golden teacher was talking to me saying, I'm waiting and ready for you. So, you know, I'm just saying, you know, hey, how about I get taken off YouTube for that comment? I think that might be against the community standards, but anyway, whatever. All right. I mean, at least get this video knocked down. All right, moving on. Last and never least, Pisces, this is happening in your natal first house. What is your natal first house, you may ask? It's you. It's your identity. Holy Neptune. You've been under the dissolving energy of Neptune since 2011. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Pisces, ascendant, sun, and moon. So right now, the stationing direct on the 28th of November will help clarify some of your identity crisis that's been in place since 2011. Who am I? What am I? Where am I? You've been in a fog bank, you know, but really 2020 was the honing and the beginning of the doors of perception, being less about confusion and more about clarity about who you are and who you want to be in this world. So it's not like this is a forever story, but, you know, Neptune in the first house, spiritually, it could be very powerful. You may have been experiencing, you Pisceans, a real return to soul, more meditation, more insight, more clarity, more stillness and depth within yourself. I think Neptune at the best is like going to the bottom of the ocean. You know, it's very quiet. It's very still, finding that still, vast, spacious, quiet place within yourself. Neptune direct on the 28th gives you some opportunity there. If you have any planets, if like your ascendant is within 3 or 4 degrees on either side of 18 degrees, it's a very powerful turnaround for you on November 28th. Okay, so remember that, or your sun or your moon, 28 degrees. 18 degrees of Pisces. If you have a sun, moon, or ascendant anywhere around that degree, you Pisces, this is a very important and potent turnaround time for you. Do you want to say anything else about it? Well, not really, because your first house is you. It's really an inner journey and an identity shift. Like you may also have shifted your identity to being more Neptunian, right, than you were 11 years ago. You know, my sister Cindy is a Pisces rising, and now she does blind faith readings with her tarot, which I'll put a link below since I mentioned her. So, and she does Tuesday tarots with me. Astro Tarot Tuesday is my new show. You want to sign up, check it out. I should have said that at the beginning. I always forget to plug myself. Anyway, so that's that. Subscribe, like, share. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you guys soon. Mwah.